All right, I will call to order at 7 p.m. This is the Wednesday, October 4th, 2017 Finance Committee meeting. On the agenda for tonight, we have discussion around the special town meeting warrant, or the fall town meeting, which is on October 23rd. We have Ms. Copeland and Mr. Pombriand in to discuss Articles 1 through 4, and then we'll be reviewing and making our recommendation votes on the remaining articles. So if there are no changes or adjustments to the agenda, I will invite Mr. Pombriand and Ms. Copeland up to give their presentation. And I'll pre-apologize, everyone. I am very sniffly. I have caught a cold, so.
Oh, geez, that time of year.
I don't blame you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Finance Committee, thank you for having Susan and I before you this evening to discuss the special fall town meeting warrant, specifically Articles 1 through 4, which are the government reorg. You have just a couple housekeeping things, gentlemen, in front of you. You have draft 3 of the town meeting warrant. This was the one that the Board of Selectmen approved last night, and the board did vote to recommend all of the articles. As I mentioned at the previous meeting when I was before you, the warrant has to go to print by noon this Friday, so obviously FinCom will be discussing it and taking recommendations and positions on it. We will then post it on Friday. We mail it to all of the households in Ayer. It'll be posted on the website as well as posted in various locations throughout town. I also, if I may, Mr. Chair, just a quick plug. Ms. Copeland and I are going to be hosting next Tuesday, October 10th at 6 p.m.
Ms. Copeland looks very excited about that.
She is losing sleep over
He was
it.
kind of amping it up.
We're going to host a public informational forum on Articles 1 through 4 for the public. It's going to be filmed by APAC as well, because there's a lot of material there, and we want to give everybody all of the information and answer any questions or concerns. So we'll be advertising that leading up to Tuesday. Lastly, in addition to the warrant that you have a memo from me that we'll discuss briefly, highlighting in detail the issues of Article 3, which is the proposed town manager article. So with that, we have a presentation, brief presentation behind you. Both Susan and I are open to any suggestions as well for this presentation. We'll refine it on Tuesday at the public forum, and further refinement as we move forward to the special town meeting. So this is a proposal on the Town of Ayer government reorganization. And if I may, just to give very quickly the historical background on these articles, this did not happen overnight. It's been ongoing discussions in the town of Ayer, previous town government study committees starting in 2005. There was another in 2010, have recommended these changes. Additionally, the Division of Local Services recommends this as best practices. They also did a 2007 report specifically on Ayer where these recommendations were made. The Department of Revenue as well, and we have had a lot of discussions at the administrative level over the years I've been here on these matters. So just to frame the history behind it. Lastly, the draft master plan for 2017, as well as previous master plans, have made these recommendations as well.
When you say these recommendations, you're speaking about the appointed positions and the town manager position?
The 2005 government study specifically was the appointed town clerk and appointed treasurer tax collector, as was 2010. The Division of Local Services 2007 report, and we're going to put all of this on the website with this, as well as the DLS, DOR analysis have been for all 3 positions.
Okay.
Including the town manager.
If I may,
Yeah.
just out of curiosity,
Why 12 years later is the action being taken?
Through the chair, Mr. Diamond, as
Please.
you can probably appreciate, with municipal government, things change, often move slow. In 2000, and Susan will talk about that, things often move. Change is a frightening thing. Things move slow. Some of the efforts, because it does require town meeting approval, were not successful previously. This is a new and improved approach, which we'll get into. But
Okay.
yeah, a very good question. Things move slow.
Okay.
All right,
You wanna
so-
run through your presentation.
Yep.
Feel free.
So we'll start. We'll start with Article 1, which is the article that an act establishing an appointed town clerk. All four of these articles, just procedurally, so everybody understands, will be put forth to town meeting. If they pass town meeting, they require a simple majority vote. They are then submitted to the state legislature, where they have to be approved by the legislature. The legislature will not reconvene until January. They usually can take anywhere from 3 months to 18 months for them to approve these. Obviously, we would work, if they pass, with the delegation to expedite that. And then once they're approved by the state and come back to the town, then they go into effect. So just procedurally. So I will turn it over to Susan. This is Article 1, the town clerk.
Mr. Chair, through you to the members, we start with just really, obviously, the facts. Elected. What are the qualifications for an elected position? Your qualifications are you're 18 years old and you're a registered voter in this town. The accountability really boils down to once every 3 years, for when the voters come in, you pull papers, you get your name on the ballot, and the voters come in to vote you in. Unless, for whatever reason, you fell extremely short, you could be recalled, which would be a costly effort. But overall, when we say the accountability, is that it's obviously a 40-hour work week. It's a 40-hour office job. Currently, the way that the town of Ayer has it, which is an older, and it did work initially 50, 60 years ago, it's a town clerk / tax collector. So the town has it, they're two separate positions. They're two separate items or candidates on the ballot. And they're part-time. Yet they're not part-time positions. You're there 40 hours. But really an elected person, there's nowhere that's stated you need to be in the office 40 hours a week for the public and open to close. It slides off onto the assistants essentially. I mean, it's in their contracts and so forth. So, and there's no, I mean, you could say that's great. There's no limits on vacation time or personal days or sick time. But since I have started, I have kept a rolling accrual on my own, just to kind of be accountable, because I want to be just walking in and out and sort of not holding to it, but to also to track it as well. And because I've always had to do that, so it's just a habit I'm not going to stop. And also, you're considered a department head. You are a department head, but the personnel policies don't apply. Corey checks, the electronic communications, the sexual harassment, all the different things that everybody else has to adhere to. It's optional, and an elected person can elect not to do any of these things. So it just doesn't make a cohesive department or a situation. So, but appointed brings it up a level where you have professional credentials, education and experience included, and that's because when you come into this office, you do a job description, and it's is more than just setting up for an election. It's day in and day out. It's vital records. It's updating vital records. It's doing corrections. It's guidelines to the states. You're following state statutes and mass general laws. It's dog licensing. It's, I mean, on and on I can list. But to just walk in because you're 18 years old and registered voter, I mean, it's 2017. It's a professional position, and it needs to be treated as such. And so over the years, and actually most recently with the Municipal Modernization Act, that has also been a recommendation from the state level. So Division of Local Services, which is DLS, Department of Revenue, and the draft 2017 master plan recommend an appointed town clerk position. So it changes the accountability to the residents. That doesn't really change, to be honest, but to the town manager. So it aligns you with the other department heads, and it makes a cohesive department, a stronger foundation for everybody across the board. So currently, we'll get down to the nitty gritty, which you guys want, numbers. The funding currently, it's a grade 11, no step. It's a part-time 20-hour position. It's $32,748. So as a town clerk full-time, because we would be separating out, it would be a town clerk full-time, separate from the treasurer collector. It'd be a proposed grade 11, step 5 at 40 hours, which according to the grid is $65,939.04. That would be based on, I think that was based on me.
Yes,
step 5.
If I may,
now that I read that again.
To the benefit of when the town's classification and compensation plan, even though this was an elected position, we were advised to at least grade it. So that's where the grade 11 came from. There's no step because as an elected position, the salary is set by town meeting. Susan, the proposal is to keep it at grade 11. And on it, if it was a vacant position, step 1 through 3 is usually the entry level, and it's usually dependent on qualifications. So if we were hiring this position, a vacancy, depending on qualifications, would be 1 through 3. Step 4 and 5, and this is a recommendation, the additional 2 steps takes into account specifically the incumbent's 4 years of service, because every year you would go up a step. So that's the methodology that Susan and I put forward to get to that, just so you understand.
So, and to address sort of, I should have really started with, this is more on the position, it's not the person. I'm not lobbying for myself. So, even after just saying that, where the step 5 is, but we did say it's entry level, step 1 through 3. It's the positions that I am lobbying for. It's after going into this, I ran in 2014 believing in this, and I was at the meetings and in support of the town government study, and that is why I'm here today. It needs to be, and now holding all 3 positions, even more in the past year, I've learned that it needs to be a town clerk and a treasurer collector and appointed, but it needs to be separated out. The workload does not work, and the demands of the town, it does not flow, and it's even with the support staff. So this is something that everybody is across the board that this is what needs to. So it's the position, and that's why I'm pushing forward, and it's not a personal. There is no change. There's the question of elected to appointed, a change on power. And where the power lays and so forth. The town clerk is, I would say 85% is statute, state-driven, it's laws. There's guidelines, there's deadlines I have to follow. You have to, the Attorney General's office, I mean, there's no real gray area. And if you think it's a gray area, you get on the phone and you call, and they make it very clear for you. So it's the overall, where people have a fear because it's change and the loss of power, You don't. Town meeting is still existent. Town meeting still drives the budget. It still approves, or if there's bylaw changes or whatever. This is still driven through town meeting, so it doesn't absolve the voice of the residents. And so,
Just a kind of a quick question
Yeah.
on going to an appointed, what would the hiring process be for a position such as this?
Good question. So specifically to these articles that are before you, it's a good point, because the articles as written, and this is not only on advice from town council, but also from DLS and DOR, on all of these articles, if they pass, the incumbent, so in this case, on the town clerk, Ms. Copeland, would serve as the first appointed town clerk for the balance of her term. At the end of that period, then, as appointed, it would be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. The town could do a hiring process. They could decide to reappoint Ms. Copeland. They could open a hiring process like they can for any position. As I've always maintained, Mr. Chair, with respect to department head level positions, there should always be a search committee involved, and that's the intent moving forward. But a key point is, in the reason why these articles are written, that the current incumbents are at least become the first appointed for the balance of their term, is if you don't have it that way, if they were to go out effective immediately, number one, the state legislature doesn't look positive on that, and two, for the sake of continuity of government as well, we would want there to be a transition.
Okay.
So when you say term, you're referencing the term of the elected office.
Right.
It carries forward, and from then on, it becomes an appointed office for some period.
Correct.
Okay.
And just so, Mr. Diamond, generally we have done with department heads, it's usually 3-year terms.
That's fine.
But it can actually, under the Modernization Act, now be up to 5-year, but generally it's 3-year. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And one final point, if I may, Susan, the other problem that we have with these elected positions is the issue of continuity of government in transition. So under the current system, and I've experienced this twice since I've been here, when the town clerk is up for re-election, if he or she loses the election that night, so that day he or she came in as the town clerk, he or she loses the election, the new person becomes the town clerk upon being sworn in upstairs, and therein there is no, if you will, there is no transition, and there is no continuity in the government. And I think that's been a disservice to the people, and Susan can speak more to that because she's experienced it directly in 2 of the offices. There was absolutely no transition.
All right, moving on.
okay. Tax collector treasurer, the same for the elected. Just to start with numbers for my finance committee friends, we are a $26 million operation. Your qualifications for an elected tax collector treasurer is 18 years old and a registered voter. Their accountability is once every 3 years to the voters when they are on the ballot. There's no limits on vacation time, personal days, or sick time. There's no personnel policies that apply, so it's an optional, really, policy to follow. So that's how it starts. You hope for the best candidates, and I will put in the personal, I still believe I am a great candidate. But we can do better, and we can work smarter for our money, not harder. And opening it up as an appointed, there's the professional credentials, education, and experience. There's even the already certified tax collector treasurer with the Mass Treasurer Collectors Association, or Collectors Treasurer Association. And this again was through the Municipal Modernization Act, was strongly followed, and this is actually probably, I would say, closer to 90% in the Commonwealth. and supported by DLS, DOR, again, the 2017 master plan, and was recommended by the government study. And it's very important on the finance team piece. This holds even more weight. We're talking about our banking. It's more than just taking deposits and posting on spreadsheets. It's borrowing. We do borrowing. We have incredible capital that we are able to work with and move with this town. The free cash, our bond rating went up. I mean, there's a lot at stake, and you need to have multiple hats and the ability to get out there and work with the investors. Like I said, it's just, I go and sit in classes, I go to school, and I sit in a room with people, and I personally look around the room thinking, who can I scoop up to come to Ayer to make the money work? I mean, that's just how I feel. Again, I feel like I'm doing a pretty darn good job, but I mean, to be honest, 18 years old and registered, $26 million. We can do better. And it's for everyone's, it's your money working better. Again, it aligns with the department heads, and it's combining the positions, because really tax collector treasurer, it really rolls through. When you do the collecting process, when you finish out and the turnover to the treasurer, it's just this nice little stream that goes through when you have to stop and go. And the way our offices are set up, it's a nice smooth run. So funding. Currently these are funded as 20 hours. Again, they're considered part-time. However, the treasurer, when I was elected, it is a full-time, but at town meeting, at my request, the the salary was dropped to enable to hire a finance assistant, because it's needed for the extra background work. So it was brought down. So currently at this time, it's the $40,026 per position. But again, as a full-time appointed tax collector treasurer, and it was along the same lines as on the grid, it's with the compensation study, it's at the grade 11 in an entry step 1 to 3 based on qualifications. So that's between the 59 and 62,500, and I think it's on the next page. Yep. There we go. That's your bottom line, Scott, that you're looking at in the transition, the cost impact of it being appointed and approved through the state, and then eventually a transition, because again, it's the term. So the first term, it would be the first term expiration, which would actually be the treasurer, which would be in 2019. The clerk and collector positions are technically 2020. So the treasurer is 2019. So it would be at that time that we would follow a transition, if not sooner. So if we were able to start a search process, or however we want to move forward, that we could transition in a collector treasurer.
So you have the assistant treasurer listed as part-time.
That's actually the finance assistant. I just realized it's not assistant treasurer.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's actually the finance assistant. So I realized that's a typo.
Okay, yeah.
It was moved under an assistant treasurer line item with Lisa. That's how we were running the numbers. So, but it's actually the finance assistant, because she assists accounting, treasurer, and collector. But it's not the assistant treasurer.
So the current salary for that position is only $20,748, but
right.
The budget was set at $32,524.
Yep, the $32,524 is what was reduced in the salary on town meeting floor.
Okay.
So that's how.
Was the budget that was approved by town meeting though adjusted by that amount? When you dropped the salary down to $40,000, I'm trying to remember, did the budget line item move with it? Or did it remain in for that position?
You're talking about 2017?
Yes.
2018?
Yes, 2018.
I'm sorry. You're talking about 2018?
2018, yes.
So then it was moved to the line. I'm trying to think back.
Just a question.
I know.
Because generally, any adjustments, so for example, when we go into town meeting for, to set the budget, question 2 or 3 is the elected officials' salary. So we put into the budget what the salary is on the warrant, so it matches, but if there's any adjustments, generally the budget itself will be adjusted up or down accordingly.
So that was true for the 2017,
Okay.
but not for 2018. 2018, it is as a finance assistant. It was not in the salary
Okay.
for treasurer.
All right, so for 2018, which is the current fiscal year we're in,
Yes.
that doesn't necessarily apply, correct? If I'm following that correctly?
Versus current pay or current budget? Current budget may be greater than the current pay. It sounds to me like that's the way it ended
The
up.
budget stayed.
Okay.
The budget stayed, but the salary didn't. The salary, yeah, well, meaning the finance assistant budget, so that the salary was reduced 32,000.
Yep.
So that became the new budget for the finance assistant, but that's not the pay for the finance assistant.
Okay.
Does that make, no?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to remember whether the omnibus budget line was adjusted or not around that.
So I think what you're saying is that the budget line item for that role is 32, but the actual expenditure for that role is 20.
Correct.
Okay, so what you're proposing here is that once the dates roll, that there will be a new position called collector treasurer that is not connected to clerk, and it will have a line item cost of $80,051.39 in a budget.
No.
I think that's what I'm seeing up there, isn't it?
No, the proposed pay is on the left, so the combined positions would be 59, 737,
Okay,
68.
all right.
That's the proposed on the,
So current, it's 80, but
Right.
you're proposing it would go to,
Down to 59.
59.
well,
59 to
there's a
62.
$20,000 shortage, so actually it's going to 106 almost by the two. Is that right?
So the number comparison, currently in the current pay total is 112,800 just for those top 3
Yeah,
positions. And then the proposed is on the high end, because I'm a numbers guy, is 128,439. It's a $16,000 increase just on those positions. But you're saying that because of the assistant treasurer current pay being less than what the allocated budget was, there's additional savings in that space where
right.
instead of 16,000 as I'm calculating, it comes down to an impact of around 5,000.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Or lower, because you have the 15, you're using the 59, I'm using the 62.5. That was in the range that you gave.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Got it. Yeah.
Okay. For town meeting, it might be appropriate to make this a little easier to understand.
Agreed.
Yeah. This was.
Yep.
I will admit this was a last ditch
Yeah.
I
effort to
understand
put
what
some
you're
numbers
saying,
up on
but-
the screen.
No, we
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
this.
One would be.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd rather go through that tonight and
Yeah.
clean it
Yeah,
up.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Next,
So
next
very
slide we can pick apart.
Yeah.
Don't you worry. There's more to come. But wait, there's more.
What? I thought.
You just skip right over me. Oh, that's
Did
it
we
for
have-
me.
All right, so a couple of questions I have before we move on to the town manager position. So whoever's in the position becomes the first appointed member. So looking at, so you would in sense be appointed to all 3 of those positions, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So on the salary side of things, the question is, would you be drawing both salaries?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm drawing 3 salaries right now.
Just asking.
I know, but I'm just saying. I mean,
Okay.
in case anybody asks, I have 3 salaries now for the 3 positions.
The 2 you'd be taking instead of the 3 will be about $16K higher than they are now.
given the conversation we just had.
The
Yeah,
savings
yes.
is
Yeah.
11,000 coming from a different position.
Yeah. Does as an appointed member, you have the ability to resign a position, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And you, just to reiterate, so the treasurer is 2019 for when that's due up for, and then the tax collector, actually, no, sorry, the clerk would be 2020.
Mhm.
Okay.
Collector is 2020 as well.
So there are 3 distinct positions, 2 2020s and 1 2019.
Yes,
But if we're
but we would
But
go
if
with
we're
the
combining
2019.
the treasurer collector into one,
Mhm.
wouldn't the
It
treasurer
would default to the treasurer 2019.
usurp, because that's the first
Yeah.
one?
So
Okay.
you would resign the collector role at the time the treasurer became appointed, and then the treasurer would be appointed the collector as well? Is that the process?
No, the position would ultimately go away and be absorbed into the treasurer position. That's the way I understand it.
The position would disappear?
Well, there's still a
Well, it gets
Gonna be a
morphed.
role.
still a treasurer,
Yeah,
so it's just
right.
combining it.
Yeah,
So
it gets
it's-
morphed in with the treasurer position.
Okay.
Okay.
So underneath the treasurer's job description, it would be collector.
Yes, it's treasurer, tax collector. And there is, just for everybody's benefit, I know some know this, it's treasurer, tax collector as opposed to treasurer collector, because in Massachusetts, the actual position of collector, that individual is authorized to collect all funds. That's not what we're looking for. It's a tax collector to collect the property taxes.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Any other questions on?
I just think that clarity would be very
Yes.
productive at town meeting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Agreed.
Or next week on your presentation.
Yeah. Yep.
Or both.
But definitely both.
Any other questions just on the presentation here, or Susan?
I just want to make a note actually on the question of the terms and the ending and transition. I would prefer starting the transition process earlier, as opposed to waiting for the end of the term. That's just my own personal. So I would rather, if and when everything goes through and we're approved and this aspect is done, the positions are changed around, I would prefer starting a transition for treasurer collector sooner.
Okay.
Before the end of the...
Before the end of the term, yes, which being the incumbent and the first appointed, it would be
Mhm.
under my purview to do that. So
Okay.
I would rather start that transition sooner rather than later.
Understandable.
So
All right. Thank you. Moving on to town manager, Robert.
All right. So town administrator versus town manager form of government. And there are a lot of myths and misunderstandings in the transition of the nomenclature from town administrator to town manager. I also want the Finance Committee to understand that, unfortunately, in Massachusetts, there are many options to a town manager government. In other words, there is a very extreme version of town manager government where the town manager is given a wide and extensive spectrum of authority and duties and so forth. It can also be tailored and mitigated to fit the community, and as we'll see, that is the case here for Ayer. When the 2010 Town Government Study Committee was concluding its work, I actually had just started here as the town administrator in 2010, and they were pretty much finished their work, and at that time, this was not further explored at that time. However, we now have 7 years of experience, which I'll talk about, to speak to why we're making some of these changes. What I'm proposing, just so the committee also understands, is what I feel in working with town council and other resources is a proposal that the town manager that is a right fit for Ayer. In other words, not looking, this is in no way, again, a power grab. This is in no way also, as Susan mentioned, I'm looking at this also as the position and also as the future. And I just, as I said to the Board of Selectmen last night, and I have maintained, if we are successful and this is adopted, I would be the first appointed town manager until June 30th of 2019. That's when my term expires. And I have made it clear my position was recently classified as a grade 17, which is fair and appropriate, and I would not, and I'd publicly say this in this forum, and I will at town meeting as well, I will not request any additional compensation or reclassification for this change, because as you'll see, doing most of these things now, and there are just some changes that I believe and industry professionals believe are designed to improve efficiencies for our government and for the taxpayers. So, and this mirrors somewhat the memo I gave you that gets in more detail for your reading pleasure later, and I'm always available, as you know, for questions. But what does Article 3 actually do? Because it's a long article, because it keeps our lawyers in business, if you will. So the quick summary. First of all, it codifies the current best practices. Most items in Article 3 are currently performed by the town administrator. On your memo, I bolded all of the changes. You'll see the regular text, a lot of it stays the same. Secondly, it centralizes and professionalizes the personnel and procurement functions of the administration. Those are the two main areas we'll talk about tonight that it focuses on. Third, it provides formal mechanisms for the town manager to delegate certain authorities to appropriate personnel. In Ayer, as we talked about earlier on the transition problems with the elected town clerk and treasurer, this also exists. Currently, there is no formal mechanism for the town administrator to delegate certain authorities in a legal manner to appropriate personnel, and this would provide for that. Lastly, it further professionalizes the administration of the municipal government by removing political and intergovernmental conflicts with respect to personnel matters. I'm sure, as the Finance Committee can appreciate, in the matter of personnel, it's a $26 million operation that has approximately 118 employees governed by 6 collective bargaining agreements plus the personnel policies. A professional, full-time professional needs to be at the helm of this. This is in no way a reflection of any of our volunteers, of our boards that have been involved, and I'm not looking to tonight or at the forum or even at town meeting publicly get into a history, unfortunately, of intergovernmental conflicts on personnel matters that unfortunately have cost the taxpayers of Ayer in the hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. But I would be happy to, if interested, to speak to that offline to any individual. What does Article 3 not do? Number one, it does not change any of the authority and powers of the Ayer Town Meeting. The Ayer Town Meeting remains, if you will, supreme in that sense. Secondly, it does not change the authority or powers of the Board of Assessors. The Board of Assessors remain elected. Their authority remains the same. The elected Board of Health is elected. Its authority, powers remain the same. The Conservation Commission, your board, the Finance Committee, it remains appointed by the moderator, which is good. It's a separation. You retain your reserve fund transfer authority, which is governed by statute. Your authority to advise and consent on the budget, also to put forth a budget at town meeting or an alternative budget, or to make recommendations on the warrant like you're going to do tonight, all remain intact. The Parks Commission remains elected and remains with its power and authority. Planning Board, and we're going to talk about in a minute, the exception is the Personnel Board. We'll come back to that in just 1 minute. It does not change the authority of the elected Board of Selectmen as the chief executive body of the town. It does not change the town's budgetary process. It does not change the capital planning process and the existing appointment process for volunteer boards, commissions, and committees under the Board of Selectmen. So all of our appointments under the Board of Selectmen would, as they are the town administrator, under town manager, would be a recommendation made by me, subject to approval by the Board of Selectmen. So what are the changes? And on your memo, again, I highlight these. The way the article is written, it goes through section A through R. The good news is there's not a lot of changes in the interest of time, so I will keep it brief, but so we can get to your questions. The first change is that the town manager will be able to hire and fire department head level positions with the consultation and approval of the Board of Selectmen. Now, when I told you earlier that there are different versions of town manager government, that in many versions the town manager has sole authority to hire and fire department heads, obviously in accordance with the law. I felt, on my experience here in talking to a lot of people, that is not appropriate here in Ayer. That needs to be that check and balance on the department head level. So what I'm proposing is hiring and firing of all department head level positions, which would include the appointed town clerk and so forth if we're successful, with approval of the Board of Selectmen. The town manager, this is one of the changes, will be able to hire and fire non-department head positions in consultation with the respective department head, but will not require Board of Selectmen approval. So an example, hypothetical. If the police chief had a clerical position, whether for performance issues or whatever the reason, obviously a just reason, that following our policies needed to be terminated, the town manager would have the authority to do that. Under the current system, what happens is all of these positions, termination, and we had a situation last night, the chief and I can recommend that, but the Board of Selectmen has to approve that. The issue, and I talked to the board at length with this last night, and they had no issue with it. The issue that we've had is, unfortunately, the Board of Selectmen has to be convened with a 48-hour notice, and with scheduling, sometimes we can't get a quorum. I've had multiple instances where I've had to put employees that should have been terminated on paid administrative leave, in one instance up to 2.5 weeks. It's not an effective way to administer government. It's an unnecessary cost. That's why I believe that this is an appropriate move forward. So again, that would be non-department head positions. The town's personnel system would be centralized under the town administrator, a town manager, abolishing the appointed volunteer personnel board, and centralize the personnel system under the professional town manager in consultation with the department heads, Board of Selectmen, and Finance Committee. So historically, in many towns and cities and towns over the last 15 years are moving away from personnel boards. And the reason that is they're very fine people, but they're volunteers, and personnel boards meet once or twice a month. They are not intimately involved with all of the personnel matters, if you will, and all of the weeds, as they say. Additionally, specifically in Ayer, I've been here, it'll be going on my 8th year, there has been a total period of time close to 3.5 years in which there was not a quorum of the personnel board. Not all at one time, but if you add up the whole time, there was a 3.5 year period that there was no quorum, and therefore it deferred to the Board of Selectmen personnel matters, which, and I said this to the Board of Selectmen, is problematic because it becomes into a political forum to some extent. Additionally, personnel boards had employee reps, which there was great controversy with, that there would be employee reps on the personnel board. We've had a very difficult time with the personnel board. There was a period, however, relatively recent, where we were able to get the classification and compensation system in place and some other things. So this would centralize the personnel system under the town manager. Now, the key thing is in consultation with department heads, Board of Selectmen, and Finance Committee. So policy changes to the personnel policies and so forth would still go to the Board of Selectmen. On all financial matters, at least as far as I'm concerned, the Finance Committee should be consulted on, including, and we'll get into this on the next point as well, should be consulted on, as we're doing tonight, on personnel matters. The town manager will be authorized, and I should actually, one other point on that. Under our current system with the personnel board, any change to the personnel policy manual requires that the personnel board have a public hearing to make that change. So if any change, the way it's written now, so if we wanted to add anything from a major change, like a reclassification change, or even a minor change, the personnel board has to convene, a public hearing has to be called in the newspaper, there's a cost to that, and it's very cumbersome. And an example, finally, was last fall, actually a year and a half ago, Mr. Johnson, the benefits manager, and I realized that the town did not have a CORI policy, a criminal records review policy, CORI, that was not in compliance with federal and state law. Under our existing system, to change that, it had to go through the personnel board. There was a small period where there wasn't a quorum. There were another period where we hadn't have a quorum at 3 meetings. Make a long story short, it took close to 11 months to get the CORI policy in place. I don't think that is responsible government. I don't think that is in the best interest of anybody. In other words, the town manager that the town hires, and as Susan said, my record stands for itself and its qualifications, obviously should have a professional person that is managing this. The town manager will be authorized to fix the compensation of all appointed officers and employees within the limits established by the budget and town meeting. On this, it's sort of what we do now. In other words, the town manager would, when it says fix the compensation, well, the tool we're going to use already exists. It's the classification and compensation system. Will we make changes to that? Of course, any system needs changes. Will those changes be done in a closed office? No, it's too important. It needs to be consulted with the Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, and input. That's how good government works. Additionally, the budget, as I mentioned earlier, the budget process we use is not going to change. And you gentlemen right now play a key role in that. In other words, as we develop the FY19 budget, the issue of all the compensation and so forth will come forth to you. It's set by the personnel system. All of our union folks, it's set by union contracts. So again, the universe is very small in that. I can't just arbitrarily start fixing numbers and so forth. We're going to follow the same process there. Ultimately, you will also make recommendations on the budget, and town meeting has to approve the budget, and all salaries and so forth have to be within appropriation of town meeting in the budget. The town manager will have full jurisdiction over the rental and use of all town facilities. Right now, per the selectmen, I'm the custodian of town hall. This, I would be ultimately responsible for all of the town facilities, but as I told the Board of Selectmen, the fire chief will be in charge of the fire station, the police chief, the police station, and so forth. But this is a change, but it's not a fundamental change. The next one, the town manager will have authorization to procure and execute all contracts under Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, without Board of Selectmen approval. So Chapter 30B is the Massachusetts procurement statute. It's very specific. It's extremely heavily relegated and regulated by the Inspector General. I am the town's chief procurement officer now, as I would be with this change. And right now, so all contracts under 30B, which is specific, and 30B are the smaller contracts, not the big DPW ones, the big building ones, and so forth. I do all of the procurement with the department heads on these contracts, and there are some that a town administrator on a lower amount can execute, and then some that require board execution. Again, the same issue. Sometimes we're delayed 2 weeks to do this. This is also to free up the Board of Selectmen, if you will, to focus on the larger issues. Lastly, And the town manager will be authorized to sign the payroll warrant and accounts payables warrant. And as Susan mentioned, the Massachusetts modernization bill that just recently passed, as she mentioned, also recommends in that moving towards the town manager form of government. This is one key point. It used to both the payroll warrant and the account payable warrant. So the payroll is all the payroll, counts all the bills, and biweekly required the entire Board of Selectmen to sign it. Under the Modernization Act, they could designate one selectman. Under this, I would be authorized to sign them, to execute them. We have an enormous challenge sometimes getting people in here to sign the warrants. By my position of town administrator and town manager, I'm legally required to review both of those warrants. I'm responsible for them, as is the town accountant. So if this was to go through, I would sign them, but every other week at the selectmen's meeting, I would give a written report on all warrants, and I would also CC the FinCom. We'll talk about reporting in a minute, so there's full transparency. And Ms. Gabri and I are looking in the year ahead to get it so we can get both warrants, if you will, on the town's website. They are public documents. They're on our counter. They're pretty big, but we need to get them so they're online. Lastly, visually, bear with me, I'm open for suggestions. So the citizens of Ayer are the ultimate source.
Our last minute request.
So we're gonna jazz this up
You're
better,
welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
But the citizens
I
of
like org chart.
Yep, citizens of Ayer are what we're all about. Under them, they elect the Board of Assessors, the Board of Library Trustees, the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Parks Commission, the moderator. The moderator appoints you gentlemen, members of the FinCom. So focus on the dark blue box.
Oh. There we go.
Now we go down to Board of Selectmen. Under the Board of Selectmen appoints the Conservation Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals. They appoint the town manager, just as they appoint the town administrator, the Council on Aging, Board of Directors, the Historical Commission. I'll focus on the green box.
Stay with us.
The town manager, under this,
I think you need to work on your coloring.
yes, in the coloring. There's the assistant, my assistant. The fire chief is off there because by statute under our system, we have what they call a strong chief. And by that, the fire chief can make all of his department appointees. Then,
Can I just interrupt?
yeah,
Sorry. So the last box is because it was getting too small. There's positions put into the same box. That doesn't
Okay.
mean anything. It was
Yes.
just the font was getting too small. I'm sorry.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Right. So the chart needs to be as long as the wall. But just so under this, on the department head level positions, the police chief would be appointed on recommendation by the town manager subject to approval by the Board of Selectmen. Now, we have always used on department head level things search committees, and specifically we haven't had a vacancy in a while, but for police chiefs, fire chiefs, and Department of Public Works, on that search committee you need to have citizen reps, and we would do that moving forward. The last time we did was when DPW was vacant, superintendent, we had citizen reps. In fact, Ms. Spinner was the chair of that effort at that time. So the police chief, superintendent of public works, IT director, and town accountant. The town clerk, assuming if this passes, the town clerk would be appointed. The treasurer, tax collector, payroll and benefits, town planner, building commissioner, community and economic development, COA director, and conservation agent, and
Board of Health Department.
Board of Health Department assistant. Now, there's a good example. In the article, the way it's written under Section A, so the Board of Health is a good example. They have an administrative assistant. Under this change, the administrative assistant, the town manager, would have oversight of that assistant strictly on administrative matters, not on substantive matters. In other words, the work of the Board of Health assistant would be dictated by the elected Board of Health. But Again, because our Board of Health are elected volunteers, very good ones, don't get me wrong. But if there are administrative problems that need to be addressed, the town manager can do that. Personnel in consultation with the Board of Health. That's by law. And so just to be clear on this, town manager just can't unilaterally, just is not a dictator. There has to be the consultation in that. That applies across the board. So in conclusion, the last piece of the article, I talked about the contingency. In the event of a temporary absence, so right now, if I was going to be out, I'm out, and that's it as the town administrator. This would codify that if the town manager was going to be out for a period of time, he or she would submit a letter to the town clerk and Board of Selectmen, and he or she could designate a qualified employee, say the town accountant or so forth, to exercise the duties of town manager for up to 10 business days. And then after that, the Board of Selectmen could revoke that. If there's a vacancy, if the town manager leaves, it should be filled as soon as possible. This allows the Board of Selectmen to appoint an interim town manager for up to 6 months, and that can be renewed once. In terms of removal and suspension, the town manager, just as the town administrator, is subject to performance evaluation by the Board of Selectmen and is subject to discipline and discharge by the Board of Selectmen.
Excellent.
Aren't you glad
There's
you
a
asked?
lot of material.
Thanks for coming in tonight. Didn't want an early night anyway.
Put the chart. It was a last minute pitch. We tried.
We can work on that.
We're going to work on that.
Yes. We've already got
Work on the coloring. Contrasting is good when
I
you're
know.
presenting.
Yep.
Just so, any questions specifically on the town manager
I
article?
have one question. How much of what you have, and by the way, I want to commend you on how articulate you were in sharing this information with us. It was very understandable. I thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
How much of what you shared with us is your interpretation of what the town manager's job is, and how much of it is actually going to be written in a job description, so God forbid you leave and they bring in somebody else, it's very crisp exactly what their responsibilities are.
Excellent question, Mr. Diamond. And in a nutshell, all of the non-bolded things, and I can show you, my job description is on the town website. All of the non-bolded items are covered in the job description.
Good.
The bolded ones, to your point, if we're successful, and I want to be very clear, if we're successful, those will legally have to be added to that job description. Now, as far as I'm here, because people get concerned of these new duties, they're more reorganizational and changes. That is not, as far as I'm concerned, going to trigger what the bad R word, trigger a reclassification or a request for additional compensation. But those bolded changes do need to be put in the job description, and would be.
You know, I have to say I support the idea. I just want to make sure that as the town goes forward, if, like, as I said, you got run over by a bus or whatever happened and there had to be replacements.
That happens weekly.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. you get thrown under it weekly.
Yeah. Go
That's
ahead.
different.
Sorry.
Well, then they back it up over.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that all those things are crisply articulated so that your replacement, whoever that might be, would understand exactly what their boundaries are.
Exactly, and if you get a chance to watch last night's BOS video when it's put up, we had attorney Lauren Goldberg, who's of our town council. She's actually the national expert on elections and reorg. She said exactly what you just said. The whole intent of doing this is really to protect the town and spell it out for the future so that it's clearer and that the town gets the best people, whoever they may be.
Yeah.
And when they don't have the best people, and unfortunately that happens some, that it's clear that we can act in a clear, professional way to make those changes quickly. inappropriate.
I have one more question. Given that this role is, it's extraordinarily responsible, which is a good thing, it also has a lot of requirement for the town manager to make what I'm going to call subjective decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, in the process of evaluating the task and the efficacy of the town manager's decisions, is there a process that the Board of Selectmen will be able to use to measure that efficacy in the context of going forward, doing performance reviews and that sort of thing?
Another excellent question. What I would recommend, as Attorney Goldberg did, and of course with some massage, basically take letters A through R, and those functions A through R would be the evaluation of the functions of the town manager. Now, of course, in my experience with the evaluations, obviously you want to set goals and so forth. But I am open, and Mr. Hood knows this, having been on the personnel board. One of our things we need to do a better job of our evaluations, our personnel evaluations, the actual instrument, and the metrics. It's a very good point.
Thank you for that.
I have a question on Article 4.
Yes, sir.
Which is establishing an appointed tree warden. So I assume those fall into the same categories as the town clerk, the tax collector, where the current tree warden would become the first appointed, and then et cetera. Is there any additional compensation change along with the tree warden, or does it remain kind of what it is, where it's more of a part-time job or role?
Very quickly, this one was put forth by the Board of Selectmen. We have an elected tree warden. It's a 3-year term. If this article passed, he would be the first appointed for the balance of his term, and I forget, 2020 he was just elected as appointed. Mr. Chairman, the salary would remain the same.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions regarding Articles 1 through 4? Anything? No? All right. Well, thank you both for coming this evening. It's been very informative.
Thank you for the time.
Work on those org charts.
We are, and we appreciate your input. And if you have any other suggestions and so forth, just send them our way. You know where to find us, because we want it. It's a lot of material to explain in a clear, timely manner, and we appreciate
No
the
problem.
hour,
No problem.
gentlemen. We really do. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you very much for coming. So we're going to go through the warrant itself, and we will discuss and vote our recommendations for town meeting. We are not voting on every article, but we are actually voting on most of them. So we'll start with Article 1. So Article 1, establishing an appointed town clerk, as we just had the presentation. I won't go into the specifics. Is there any further discussion on this?
No,
Only in the combination of it with 2. And I think it
Yep.
goes back to the difference between 3 positions down to 2, but an overall increase of salary. And seemingly the same number of hours.
All right, so do you have a question? Is that just is that
My
a
question is,
concern?
do you have a concern with that? How that fits into the budget? I get that there's money somewhere else that we can move around to cover it, but does that, it looks a little weird spending money on the same thing.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand where you're going with that. I mean, personally, looking at the numbers, it is a significant increase. I think what puts it over are the step movements from being like a step 11. Step 11. Sorry, the grade steps. I still get them wrong. Grade 11, step 5, as opposed to I think the salary is set at just 11. It's not the first time that we've had adjustments at fall town meeting, which have had a financial impact, and that will all be taken into account when they do the tax rate for the next fiscal year, for the next calendar year. I think it really comes down to, town meeting making that decision if they're comfortable with it. I think having the free money in the budget for the financial assistant, I think helps to get it through this year, and then we roll it into next year. We've been running really well financially. We have had a surplus over the last 4 or 5 years when the actuals flow through, so I'm not overly concerned about that.
If I recall the spreadsheet, because of the approximately $12,000 or $13,000 in the budget that is not being spent on the administrative assistant or assistant treasurer, I think is what it said, that money would make up the shortfall, I believe, in what you're pointing out. And I think the actual change to the budget in the 3 positions down to 2 is a little over $1,100, if I remember correctly, from what that
Yeah,
spreadsheet
that's what the
pointed out.
spreadsheet has. If you go with the higher end, it's about 5,000.
Yeah.
Semantics at that point. But when it rolls into the next fiscal year, though, those will be put in at their full-time positions, and we'll build the budget around that. Which isn't the first time we've had different changes in personnel mid-year. Then we've caught up in the budget in the next for the next fiscal
So
year.
the assistant finance person permanently going forward would be set at 20 as opposed to 32, so that permanently we're offsetting the extra cost of merging these positions.
Yes,
That was my understanding. Yeah.
that's generally how it should work. I mean, that position may be entitled to some kind of a compensation bump, whether it's 2-3%. That would be included in the budget from the 20,000 that's there.
Yeah, I just know 11 is more than 2 or 3% per year.
That's
You've
a-
seen a step increase.
That's a
Yeah.
really good point. One of the questions that I guess I should have asked and that we may want to find out is what are the non-salary implications of going from elected to appointed, where they become an employee instead of an elected position, as far as the benefits and the health insurance and all the other things that roll into that?
So, as elected officials, they're entitled to benefits. So there's no change in that, whether they're elected or appointed. On the salary side, the difference is as an elected official, it's generally set by town meeting, which we usually on the warrant it has 2 to 3%. If they are appointed, they fall onto the grid, which then means that they are eligible for step increases as a normal appointed employee.
Okay.
Mr. Pomprian?
Just, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please, if I missed anything.
As elected officials do not accrue vacation time or sick time or personal time, as appointed, they would.
That's another good
But-
point, yeah.
And that's,
But the corollary, as elected, as Ms. Copeland mentioned earlier, an elected official can take whatever time under the current system he or she chooses.
but that's out of a direct salary, it's not an accrual.
That is true.
Yeah, so we
Accrual is
do,
an additional cost. Now, what about vacation and sick time carried forward versus an elected official versus an employee? Because you got to carry it in the next year. I don't know if we have that in our system, but I would imagine that there is some carry forward.
I'll answer this one because this is one of my favorite subjects. So we budget for the fiscal year. So we budget just the salary of an individual, of an appointed position. If that person is entitled to 3 weeks vacation, they take 2 weeks, we still just expend their budget for that one position, then that 1 week they carry over to the next year. When we carry over to the next year, we don't accrue for that one week. We just budget for that position. It's the way municipalities work. And believe me, you can bang your head all you want, like I did. It doesn't make it any better. The town accountant does track that on an annual basis so that we know what is our open liability, but we don't specifically have a fund set aside for it. Because municipalities are more cash-based accounting as opposed to accrual-based accounting. My last understanding, I think it was about $1.1 million was currently what is quote unquote accrued for unused compensation time.
Okay.
One of my
So that
favorite
is- That
subjects.
is an exposure, but it's.
It is, but it's
we
nothing
don't have a
different than the
mechanism
other.
for mitigating it.
Correct. And it's also partly why, the Finance Committee has been pushing for years as we've had free cash and other, good financial fortune, where we'd rather see the money put it into a stabilization account so that when and if these do come to fruition in a single year, we have some flexibility around the payment of those. And when you do look at the department heads, a lot of the department heads have been in their positions for quite some time. So, I'm sure that they're, and I'm sure that they're probably getting to a point where they may be looking to retire over the next, say 5 years, 10 years. And so it is an exposed liability that we have. Okay.
Thank you for that.
All right. Any other discussion on Article 1? Do I have a motion of recommendation or non-recommendation?
I move that we approve Article 1.
Recommend Article 1.
I recommend Article 1.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor of recommending Article 1 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, 3-0. Article 2, creating a combined appointed position of treasurer collector, as we had the information presented this evening. Any further discussion on Article 2? Do I have a recommendation or a motion for recommendation or non-recommendation?
I move we recommend Article 2.
Second.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0. Unanimous. Article 3, establishing a town manager, as we had the information presented to us this evening. Do I have any further discussion or questions? Do we have a a motion for recommendation or non-recommendation?
I move we recommend Article 3.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Article 4, establishment of an appointed tree warden. So as we briefly touched upon, very similar to the clerk and treasurer tax collector position. Any further discussion or questions on this one? No? All those in favor, do I have a motion for recommendation or non-recommendation?
I move we recommend Article 4.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Article 5 is Air Culture Council memberships, no financial impact, so we will not be putting a vote forward on that. Article 6, establishment of a conservation fund to see if the town will vote pursuant to provision of GLC 40, subsection 8C, to establish a conservation fund with the treasurer to be the custodian thereof and authorized to deposit and or invest the proceeds thereof in accordance with the statute, and income therefrom shall be credited to the fund. Money in said fund may be expended by the commission without further authorization for any purpose authorized by said statute, except for non-expenditure for taking by eminent domain, and shall be made unless such expenditure is approved in accordance with said statute. The fund may receive gifts and donations. The town may appropriate money in any year to the fund, or take any action thereon or related to. No, I did not take cold medicine before I came, in case anyone was wondering. Explanatory note: at the request of the Community Preservation Committee with the support of the Conservation Commission, the Open Space Committee, this article would create a conservation fund, which funds would be used for the purposes of acquiring lands for the purposes of conservation, open space, and or passive recreation. The funds will be overseen by the Conservation Commission, and the town treasurer shall serve as the custodian. Any questions or discussion?
Is there any monetary value established to the beginning of the fund?
No, so this is part of the process. We approve the creation of the fund, and then the funds can get moved in through all the little venues that they mentioned, whether it's a gift or the town may appropriate itself. Yeah.
I move that we recommend Article 6.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Yes.
Excuse me, just one.
Sure.
On Article 5, the Air Cultural Council, I get it, it's not a financial article.
Mm-hmm.
Where your line is on that warrant, do you want me to put no recommendation? I know it's, or what would you put, take it off, or? I know
I take it off, please.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
All right.
I think that's what we've done generally
Yeah.
in the past.
Okay.
Because if you put no recommendation, then it just looks like we don't recommend the article itself. And
Okay,
I think we've run into that at one point over the years too.
sorry, but thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Article 7, transfer of funds from the Community Preservation Commission to the Conservation Fund. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $500,000 from the Community Preservation Open Space Fund to the Conservation Fund, or take any action thereon or with. 2. Explanatory note. This article would transfer $500,000 from the Community Preservation Committee's Open Space Fund to the Conservation Fund as established in the previous article. Any questions or discussions on this?
How much money is in the Community Preservation Open Space Fund, and what's the source of it?
Okay. Susan?
If you like to. So I believe it's just over 1 million. I want to say.
Why is it really that high?
Exactly. So it's just over 1 million mark.
Wow.
And that is through the CPA. That's.
So I can explain it. I was on
Okay,
community
but it's just
CPC.
But it's just over what? So the fund balance is just over 1 million.
Okay, so $1 million. So when you get your taxes, you get a little surcharge on top of that of 1%, which was established by the town 10, 12 years ago. So that's for community preservation. So generally the way it works is the taxpayers pay that surcharge 1%. Most communities have 3%. And then the state will actually match some of the funds. There's different rounds of funding that the state calculates and processes. The way we're actually at a disadvantage because we're only at 1%. So when the state does their fund matching, we stay in it for the first round of the funding. So we get we get the matching, a portion of our matching based upon the 1% that the taxpayers put in. All the other communities that have 3% or more will actually stay in for a second, third, or possibly a fourth round of funding from the state.
Okay.
So there's a funny history with that, which we can talk about at some other point. But that's the funny.
It's a tax-based set aside.
Yeah. Yes, that's one good way to look at it. Mr. Pomprian?
Mr. Chairman, forgive me, on Article 6 and Article 7, and I will put it in the final explanatory note just for the benefit of the committee, the CPC is required to have a public hearing on this, and they have set that for October 18th. So in other words, there's another article on the fire station coming later. There will be a public hearing held on October 18th.
All right, thank you.
I move to recommend Article 7.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Article 8, to supplement prior borrowing votes to permit the application of bond premium to pay project costs. To see if the town will vote to supplement each prior vote of the town that authorizes the borrowing of money to pay costs of capital projects, to provide that in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, the premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes thereunder, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to pay project costs in the amount authorized to be borrowed for each such project shall be reduced by the amount of such premium so applied, or take action therein with too. Apparently the translation on the bottom is, on the explanatory note, this article would authorize the town to supplement prior borrowing votes by town meeting to allow the application of the sale premium from bonds to pay capital project costs. Can I ask you a clarification question, please, Mr. Pomprian?
Yes, sir.
If I understand this correctly, does this mean if we borrowed for a prior project and we have not expended that entire project, we just get to use it for current projects as long as the initial project is complete?
Mr. Chairman, you just wrote the new explanatory note.
All right, thank you.
You are correct.
Thank you very much.
And if I may, to the committee, this was also recommended as part of the Modernization Act, and is
Okay.
recommended by our bond council and town council. but Ms. Cabri and I have been struggling to explain it just as you did, so we will ask you at town meeting. You would be so kind, but we are going to clarify the note on
Okay,
this.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
This relates only to capital costs.
Correct.
Mhm.
Capital projects. Correct.
Any discussion or questions, or further questions?
Now
No?
I move to recommend Article 8.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Article 9, transfer of funds from stabilization account for the purposes of funding mandated retirement contributions for town personnel who are actively served in the military. To see if the town will vote to transfer the amount of $16,577.23 from the town's stabilization account for the purposes of funding the mandated retirement contributions of 2 town employees who actively served in the military while employed by the town, or take any action thereon or with 2. The explanatory note per MGL Chapter 32, Section 22, subsection 4, the town is mandated to pay the employer contribution to the retirement system for any town employee who is actively deployed in the U.S. military. Any questions or discussion?
I move to recommend Article 9.
Second.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Article 10, Community Preservation Funds for the historic renovation of the former fire station cupola and roof. To see if the town will vote to transfer the amount of $30,000 from the Community Preservation Fund for the purposes of funding the historic restoration of the cupola and roof of the former fire station on Washington Street, or take any action thereon or with 2, or thereto. Explanatory note, this article would authorize the funding of $30,000 from the CPC Historic Preservation Fund to the developer of the former fire station for the purposes of the historic restoration of the cupola and the roof. So just real quick, so the fire station, old fire station has been sold. This is to help the private developer repair the cupola. It's kind of... An article like this came up before on one of the buildings here on Main Street. It's kind of a hot button issue about whether the town should be funding private developers' work, for their own profit. So personally, I think there's a fine line, and I think that really depends on the building. I think it's the old fire station, the cupola is really part of what makes the building so unique and recognizable in town, and it is only $30,000. So personally, I don't have an issue with it.
I don't have an issue with it philosophically, but if we're going to spend $30,000 to preserve the cupola and the roof, what guarantee do we have from the new owner that 2 years from now they're not going to tear the building down?
It's a historical landmark. So it's a registered historical building.
Okay, so it's on
Correct?
the National
Is it
Register.
registered?
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
It isn't yet, however, in the terms of the purchase and sale agreement, which the Historical Commission was involved, he is required to restore the cupola and the roof. So there is in the purchase and sale that protection. Additionally, there'll be the public hearing on this on the 18th, and the chairman is correct. These tend to be controversial, and there'll be discussion on that. It is, for the record, an appropriate application.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, the RCPC does what they call a grant agreement with every project. So there will also be an agreement between the town for the CPC with the developer to ensure that the project is done.
So we sold this to someone, and we're giving them money to improve what we sold to them.
Yes. Ultimately,
That's
that's what it boils down to. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The other option is where there is the public hearing on the 18th. Not all the information is out there. We can always pass on making a recommendation this evening.
I'm inclined to defer it
Okay.
to the organization that's gonna have the meeting on the 18th.
Okay. Mr. Pomprian?
Do you want me to report it?
Well, I have to see if Greg
Oh,
will.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, can I finish?
Yes, apologies.
That's okay. Greg, your thoughts?
So, just internally, I continue to struggle with my personal recommendations of things versus whether I think things are fiscally responsible
Mhm.
for the board of us to recommend. I think that from a finance committee perspective, I'm okay with recommending it, whether or not I personally would want it to pass or not.
Okay.
So I'm fine deferring if that's what
All right,
we want to
then
do.
I think by consent we'll defer, because if
Yeah.
if either of you don't have your minds made up, we'll just defer a vote. And Robert, I don't know if we don't meet before town meeting, so we wouldn't actually have a consensus on that.
Well, maybe we should say that we will concede to whatever the Conservation Commission agrees, and we will,
Well, it's on the article, so the Conservation Commission has approved it. Yeah. And that's kind of the cop-out position that the committee has taken in the past when another committee has presented an article. It's kind of been a hot button
in
issue.
that case, I move that we recommend Article 10. Because it sounds like it's procedurally going through, and it does have to do with the town, and it is fiscally responsible for the finance committee. Whether we personally like it or not is not the point. So I would move that we recommend Article 10.
Do I have a second?
I'll do it.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Article 11, transfer borrowing authorization for DPW Operations Center. To see if the town will vote to transfer the unexpended borrowing authorization totaling $126,570 from Article 20 of the May 9th, 2016 annual town meeting, DPW Sewer Enterprise West Main Pump Station construction, to pay the additional cost of constructing and equipping and furnishing the DPW Operations Center, or take any action thereon or with two. The explanatory note, this article will authorize the transfer of an unexpended borrow in the amount of $126,570 from the completed West Main Pump Station construction project to pay additional cost for constructing and equipping, furnishing the DPW Operations Center. Presentation will be made at town meeting. So basically we have a borrow that we had done for. So let me ask you a procedural question, Mr. Pomprian, since you're still here. If the previous article, which says that, hey, if we pass this article, we can just use other approved capital borrowing to pay for current projects, would this article then be needed if that previous one passes? Because it's basically doing the same thing, except this is very specific. And I understand you would want to keep it on just in case the early article does not pass.
Mr. Chairman, as always, that's an excellent question. I think you're correct.
Okay, thank
The
you.
reason if I just very quickly, this came up unfortunately last week, meaning the DPW Operations Center went through the capital process, just so you understand, last year. And town meeting appropriated $950,000 for this project. It was bid under a new procurement law called the Modular Building Procurement Law, because it's a modular building. I did not write this, the legislature did. When you bid something under a modular, so as you can imagine, the low bid came in over the appropriation. The low bid came in, we had $950,000, it came in at $1.1 million. Superintendent told me this last week. I said, okay, go back to them and negotiate down. Well, we don't bid modular buildings often under this new statute. Under this, and again, I didn't do it, but the cart is before the horse. Under this specifically, under the Modular Procurement Act, you cannot negotiate the price of the lowest bidder until you award the contract. You can't award the contract without the appropriation. Now, I wish the superintendent was here. He did a presentation. He did a
Okay.
presentation last night, which I'll get to you.
Yeah.
Slides very good. So in a
Okay.
nutshell, we're $186,000 short. That's what these two are. So the options were, do we rebid it? Well, if we rebid it, it's going to delay the entire project, and the costs of the rebidding would be about $10,000 in costs. We cannot negotiate the price down, which he intends to do, until we award the contract, but we need the full appropriation to do it. He told the Board of Selectmen, and when Ms. Cabri and I met with him, you're going to be able to negotiate the price down somewhat. So there will be a change order to the benefit of the town. It's a very unfortunate way of doing things. So lastly, I asked Ms. Cabri, and the funding she found from both of these articles are from unexpended, obviously borrowing on projects that are complete. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, to your point, we felt in the interest of transparency
No,
to do it
understandable.
this way, but I believe you are correct.
Okay, so Article 12 is the same, the same process, just different
Yes.
amounts. Okay.
Yeah.
So Article 11 and 12 are cures for this peculiar bid requirement.
Yes, and they total 186,000.
Exactly.
You're the numbers guy, and I've asked the superintendent to have that presentation for town meeting. It's 3
Okay.
slides. I'll get it to this committee
Thank you.
tomorrow morning.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
Thank
All
you.
right. So
I
actually,
move to recommend Articles 11 and 12.
perfect.
Second.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous for both. Final two articles. Article 13, recreational marijuana retailers general bylaw. Give me one moment to read through this.
Robert, I thought I read that you were going to recommend that there be an 18-month delay in the town's decision on this process proposed at some point.
Please.
If I may, through the
Thank you.
chair, Mr. Diamond, the issue of recreational marijuana continues to frustrate our Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, and everybody in the Commonwealth, because as you know, the regulations aren't even done, and they have till July 1st. And you are correct. Originally, the discussion was to put an article forward for a moratorium, and the Attorney General has been granting anywhere from 12 to 18 months. However, new information came since then. So in a nutshell, in the interest of time, just but for your benefit to be obviously informed, both of these articles are non-financial. So what we have 4 options. The town has 4 options to address this issue of recreational marijuana in front of us. The first is to do nothing. Everybody in Massachusetts that we've talked to, that would be a disaster. Just do nothing. Just wait, because what will happen is when the regulations come through and so forth, and starting April 1st, when they can begin to apply, we have no regulatory framework to control this. So that option quickly died. Option 2 was the moratorium, which we could get from 12 to 18 months. But in 12 to 18 months, when that expires, what do we have? What are we going to do? And so it delays the issue. The third issue is that you could ban it. However, in Ayer's case, to ban it requires an article approval by town meeting as well as a special election. If you ban it, first of all, we're being told that being Massachusetts and the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court tends to ultimately overturn total bans. They did it with the sex offender bylaw, they've done it with red light districts and so forth. But because we have a registered medical dispensary, if we ban it, that does not prevent the registered medical dispensary from moving forward with recreational. They give an expedited and he can proceed. And so the committee is aware, Central Compassionate Care, Mr. John Hillier, did come to the board 2 meetings ago, and his intent is to keep the medical marijuana, but he wants to expand to a recreational. He did tell the board he has no intentions of putting that in downtown, and he is looking for the appropriate site. So comes this. The last option is that the town can set the number of recreational licenses, and it can set them to no less than 20% of your total package store licenses. The town of Ayer has 8 package store licenses. 20% of the 8 is 1 point something, but under the law, and we verified this, it's 1. The feeling after a lot of discussion and last night watched the tape that the board is, if town meeting agrees, and we do have to have a special election as well for this. This is the first step. It has to pass both. If we set it at 1, then that prevents all these others from coming in. Central Compassionate Care has expedited preference under the DPH, and he has a complete clean operation with no issues. He would most likely get the license. 60% of registered voters in Ayer voted yes on question 4, just as they did on the medical question. Mr. Hillier has not only been a good citizen, a corporate citizen, he started the DPW Youth Works program. He still has to apply, and he also has to engage in a host agreement with the town in order to get the license, and that would be negotiated by the Board of Selectmen and him. That we feel, given the limited information we have and so forth, that this is what we wanted to put forth to town meeting. Why are there 2 articles? The first one sets a bylaw, sets it at 1, and the second one is a zoning bylaw, which just sets it also as 1. The town council refers to this as the belt and suspenders approach. In other words, cover all the bases. In other words, make a bylaw change and have the same thing on a zoning bylaw. Now, lastly, if at some point the town decided it wanted an additional license and so forth, town meeting, at this point on the information we have, could amend that. So that's what the board has decided to put forth to town meeting for the debate.
All right, excellent. Thank you,
Thank you.
Robert. So as Mr. Pomperian said, there's no financial impact on 13 and 14, so we will not be taking any votes on those. All right. So that wraps up our town meeting warrant for the fall. Take one thing off the agenda. Special town meeting postmortem discussion. This is from the American Superconductor. I don't want to get into too detailed. First off, Pat, thank you very much for your discussion on the financial status of American Superconductor. I thought it was very succinct. It was easy to understand. And it led some very good discussion. It was kind of like watching a tennis match almost at times, where like, oh, it's going to fail, it's going to pass, it's going to fail, it's going to pass. But ultimately, I think as a committee, I think we did a really good job on that.
I have one comment.
Mhm.
The day after the special town meeting, AMSC bought Infinia in Minneapolis for $3.5 million.
Interesting. I didn't.
Cash. Just
Okay. I know they had almost $30 million in cash and cash equivalents at the end of their last fiscal year.
what that says is the number of days of cash on hand.
Went
Just
down.
went down.
Yes, went down.
That's okay.
All right. Old business, nothing mail. So in the mail, I have, this is the Mass Municipal Directory. I think every year I've grabbed that and I've never done anything with it. So if anyone else wants it, it's yours. It just has little snapshots of each community in the Commonwealth. We also have from Neshoba Valley Technical High School, Charlie Baker's coming and celebrating the official reopening of Neshoba Valley Technical High School's Engineering Academy program. That is Wednesday, October 11th, 2017, over in Westford. Reception starts at 1, welcoming remarks at 1:30. If anyone's interested, there's an RSVP contact. If anyone's interested in that, you're more than welcome to attend. We also received our budgets, which we have $320 remaining. And then we have an article of the Beacon, if anyone is interested in that. That's mail. Minutes, we don't have anything for approval tonight. Upcoming business, I do still, and Robert, I do still owe you a memo to the department heads. I wrote the memo like last week. I just haven't had a chance to get it out to you. I will get you something shortly, probably by the end of the week. Committee updates, capital planning. You guys must be close to starting, right? Capital planning?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Just for informational purposes,
Yes,
sorry.
I understand Mr. Diamond is going to join us.
Well, yes, he is.
We are going to probably begin with the first meeting right after this town meeting.
Good.
All right,
So we
excellent.
will make sure you're and
Ready to
welcome.
do it.
Yep.
Okay. Executive buy board, I'm sure we'll be starting shortly after this
Yes.
town meeting because it usually kicks off the next budget cycle. Moving on, Finance Committee Roundtable. So I wanted to check with everyone on the FinCom annual town meeting, which is down in Franklin on, I think it's, I was actually hoping they usually send us like 20 different invites. I think it's October 21st. Down in Franklin. It's at the Technical High School. They do serve lunch, and it is always delicious. The few times I've gone, the students do all the cooking, and they do a phenomenal job. Is anyone interested in going?
Where's Franklin?
Franklin is about an hour south on 495.
That's right. You're from the left coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know where Worcester is because I went there. Sure, I'll go.
All right. I have to check my schedule. I'm going to see if I can go. The committee will pay for the admission. Yes, no? Interested? Maybe
If I'm
not?
free, whatever it
If I'm
is.
free. All right, I'll send an email with the details since I don't have them with me tonight. And I'll see if Chris is interested in going. That's all I have for roundtable. Open up to members if there's anything else you guys want to discuss. No? Okay. Looking at upcoming schedule, Monday, October 23rd, we have our town meeting. And on next scheduled meeting is October 25th. So I'll check on quorum probably the week before. And if you notice, because we're meeting tonight, we're going to skip our meeting next week. Our normally scheduled meeting next week because we didn't have quorum.
23rd is Monday. That means the 21st is a Saturday.
Yes.
So this thing in Franklin is on a Saturday.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a Saturday, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I believe it's on the 21st, but it's usually the weekend after Columbus Day, which is why I want to confirm when it is.
Okay.
All right, I have the invites at home, and I was looking at it on their website, but I didn't get a chance to confirm before I left work today. All right. There's nothing else. Entertain a motion to adjourn Finance Committee at 8:43.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.